Facebook and on my website, because I have the most amazing special guest that is going to share her story with us tonight in a spiritual way. We were just talking before we got started about how many interviews she's gone through, and this will be the first time she's been interviewed in a spiritual way. And we're going to talk to Karen Perry, and I want you all to say hello to Karen Perry. I've been very blessed that Karen has come to me over the years in which her children have resided in heaven, so that we can talk to them together. And I was telling her, I believe I was the first person that she talked to after the children left and went to the other side. So Karen, thank you so much for coming and talking with us tonight. We are so blessed by you being here. Thank you so much. So tell us just a little bit, if you would, about, for those of you who don't know the story, I guess I should tell you that on Thanksgiving Eve 2011, Karen's children, Morgan, Luke, Logan, as well as their father, passed away in an airplane crash into the Superstition Mountains, and that's the day, of course, that Karen's life changed, and she had to pick up all those pieces and figure out how to move forward from the loss. But there are other things that you've also been through. Your karmic profile, which is what I teach, is one of the most challenging karmic profiles I've ever seen. But start out by telling us a little bit about the kids. Tell us about Morgan, Luke, and Logan, and who they were, and about your kids, Karen.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you. You're the one that's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And have done so many amazing readings for me that have really meant a lot to me and made me feel.
Well, I didn't expect to start to cry right away, but holy shit, this woman's saying something nice to me, and she's the most fabulous woman in the world. Tell us about Morgan. Morgan,
okay.
You know, I think she gets my heart when she comes in. Like, she had her own challenges, right? And she was how old when she had her heavenly birthday?
Morgan was 9 years old when she lost her life, and Morgan started out difficult in life to begin with. I was an older mother, and I was 39 years old when I had her, and that was after being told I would never have children. And so she was a huge blessing, a very big surprise, and 6 weeks after Morgan was born, well, first of all, when she was born, she was beautiful, and she was perfect in every way. You know, 5 fingers, 5 toes. She was just, it was just the most incredible experience of my life to have her. And 6 weeks after she was born, unfortunately, she started having epileptic seizures. And it was so bad, and we ended up in several different hospitals. And initially, the physicians at the emergency rooms didn't believe me that she was having seizures, and they said, "Well, why do you think she's having seizures?" And at any rate, several doctors and hospitals later, no one could quite figure out what was causing the problem. And as the years went by, Morgan ended up with 5 brain surgeries, and she wore special shoes on her feet because her feet were pronated, and her arch was like lapsing. Mm-hmm. So she had special shoes. You know, she had the brain surgeries, and she was on a lot of medication that she took to subdue the seizures, which unfortunately also affected her ability to learn. So she was delayed in all areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When she comes in to talk to us, what I always feel from her is this wonderful gratitude about being whole and being, you know, she always kind of shows me her hair and talks about, you know, feeling good. And I think she's maybe, you know, talks a little bit about having her whole essence back from a tough karmic profile for her too.
Yeah, and that's a big sense of comfort for me, by the way, because she did struggle a lot in her young life, and she was in a lot of pain, and it was hard being her parent and doing everything I could to help her, but knowing that I was very limited in what I could actually do to give this little girl the best possible life that she could have. And she had a beautiful soul. I always knew that. And she was a beautiful little girl. She was very smart, but because of her inability to articulate or communicate very well, it was hard to experience that with her on Earth. And I think I've seen it much more now than I ever did when she was here physically.
And it's very interesting because she does lead the pack in talking quite a bit, I think. You know, when you were talking to the kids on the other side, my sense has always been that they each reveal to you their own personality and give you some kind of clue that lets you know that they're giving the information that is their essence. So tell us about the boys, Logan and Luke.
Okay. Logan was the middle child, sandwiched in between two special needs children. So Morgan had epilepsy, Luke was diagnosed with autism, and Logan was just hell on wheels. He was really a fun kid. He was a very naughty kid, but he was a lot of fun and super smart. He would just jump in there and play jokes, and he learned how to text when he was really young, and he would take my phone and text his teacher and say, "Mrs. So-and-so, this is Mrs. Perry, and Logan won't make it to school today." He would do things like that. He very precocious. He when I thought he was old enough to handle just a little bit of responsibility, he was 8. And this was the same year he passed away. I had a quick errand I needed to run with the other 2 children. So I told Logan, "I'm going to trust you now with being alone at home for about 10 minutes. And under no circumstances do you let anyone in the house unless it's someone that we all know really well." So he always called me Mother, and he said, "Okay, Mother, okay." And so off I went to Walgreens to do an errand. And I was horrified when I came back to find him on the sidewalk with all his little kid furniture and a lemonade stand with the sign and everything. And I was very upset with him, and I said, "Obviously you were not ready to have that responsibility because you weren't listening to me." And he said, "Mother, you told me no one could come in. You didn't tell me I couldn't go out."
He got you on that one, didn't he?
Yeah. And then a while later, the neighbor told me that he charged him $2 for a glass of lemonade, and he said, "Why so much for lemonade?" And he said, "Well, I only had a little bit left because I drank the rest of it."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so he was like that, and so Luke, between the 2 of them, they looked like twins, and people would always confuse them because they were 19 months apart, and they looked very much alike. Their personalities were very different. Luke was just the sweetest, sweet, cute kid, and really smart. He would hijack my computer, and he would take photographs of himself, and that was his thing, was photography. And before he died, he left me the gift of thousands of pictures of himself on even though he knew it was a no-no to get on my computer. And the day he died, I was sick, and he took my computer and he snapped thousands of pictures of himself.
Wow.
So big, huge gift. And yeah.
Do you remember a story that you told me? It's a story that I remember, that one of your children had some premonitory feelings about going on the airplane. Do you remember sharing that story with me? It's one of the stories that I do remember. I asked her to catch me up on some other stories that I don't remember when I'm channeling, but this really, I remember. Tell me about that.
Yeah, each child had some type of a premonition, if you will. I've heard it called other things, but they each knew in their own way. A week before the plane crash, we were stopped at a stoplight, and Logan was sitting next to me, and he reached over to hold my hand. And he looked at me right in the eyes and he said, "Mother, if I die next week, does that mean you'll still be my mother?" And I was a bit taken aback by the question, but I said, "Of course, Logan, I'll always be your mother." And that was one of a few things. Oh my goodness. The day they died, I know Logan, for whatever reason, he woke up sobbing in his bed, and I couldn't get him out of bed. I couldn't get him to go to school. He had a half day at school that day. And it was just a big production to get him going. And I found out about 2 months after the accident that he had gone to school. And of course, all the secretaries knew him because he was very flirty and loved all the girls and would always go and talk to them. And so he went up to one of the secretaries that day and said, "I'm just coming to say goodbye." He said, "This is my last day here and I won't be back." And so that was on Logan's end. On Morgan's end, it was a little closer to the time of the actual event. And I guess, and I got this from my child care provider, my nanny. She took the kids to the airport that night. And, she was trying to help them get outside and get them loaded up on the airplane. And Morgan laid down on the ground and just had a tantrum and did not want to get on that airplane. And she had never done that before. And then Luke turned to my nanny, whose name was Jaleesa, and he just had, she explained it to me, he had this look in his eyes like, "I'm never going to see you again." And he said, "I'm really going to miss you, Jaleesa." And she goes, "What do you mean? I'll be picking you up on Sunday." And he just said, I'm really going to miss you."
So, relaying those stories, do you think that at a spiritual place the kids had that inner knowing and that this was fate, this was destiny? Is that where you've gone in your head with it? Like, where do you go in your head with that, Karen?
I think that somehow they just knew. Somehow they were able to tap into an energy that, as most typical adults, we don't always, allow ourselves to tap into. And I had some premonitions as well that were kind of unusual, but I just dismissed them as, I don't know, why did I just have that thought, and I just dismissed it as meaning really nothing other than a strange thought.
I teach about karmic profiles and the difference between free will and destiny and understanding what happens when there's an agreement between spirit. And I wonder, as you speak, if there was some kind of underlying agreement between you and these three children, that somehow the four spirits, you four together, and their father would be included in that since he went to the other side with them, had planned in this lifetime to be able to share stories and experiences to help lots of people get through tragedy and challenges and understand spirit and understand life after life. And I know on regular TV shows they stay away from the subject of life after life, although you shared with me that you had been on Wendy Williams' show and a couple of people were on there, my friend JVP, who you didn't get as your connection. But there are, people that do some of that spiritual stuff, but it usually isn't geared towards the spirit. So, at a spiritual level, do you kind of resonate to the fact that this is something that the four of you had planned pre-life, and that, this was something that you're a catalyst, the four of you are a catalyst for other people to learn and grow and get and understand spirit, and because you are doing, this beautiful job of talking and smiling and describing your kids, and you're not a victim to this, Karen.
No.
And, to me, people are victims for far less. And so is that, something that you wrap your head around, that you guys have made this agreement together?
That's such an interesting question, because I that's been presented to me before, and I thought a lot about that, and I thought to myself, why would I ever agree to that?
True that.
Why would I ever agree to that?
Mm-hmm.
Consciously, that's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about it some more, and I thought, well, circumstances being the way they were, maybe that's the way it was supposed to be. It was contingent, because I look back and really I was never supposed to have kids. I had been told by many doctors that I would never be able to get pregnant. And so, I accepted the fact, at some point I was devastated, and I just accepted the fact that it wasn't going to happen. So when it did happen, it was just it was a shock, but it was such a beautiful blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back on all that now, I think, so what would my life be like had I not had those kids, and had we not gone down that road? And it's put me in such a spiritual place.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had a choice between having ever had them and maybe not having to go through the pain of losing them, I would always have them. I would always do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I do think that it has to be part of the
Mm-hmm.
agreement.
We need to, rise above third dimensional frequency to understand this. We have to be able to wrap our heads around the fact that this is a school of learning for our spirits here on the earth plane, and that real life is on the other side, and that, in this lifetime things happen that we can't conceptualize with our egos, but if we broaden up and look at it through our spirits, the miracle of the 3 kids coming to you, and maybe even, dare I say, the miracle of the 3 kids leaving you, because again, through the 4 of you, you are tapping into the hearts and minds and souls of others in a way in which you're teaching how to be an empowered individual with such a great loss.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'm going to take a call, and then we'll go back, and we're going to talk a little bit about the book. And
okay.
And so we've got a caller coming in, and we're going to talk about Karen's charity work and all kinds of things tonight. So, Lisa, okay. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, Lisa. What question do you have for Karen tonight?
Oh my goodness. I guess my question for Karen would be, having walked through this and having lost children, how does she? I don't know. How does she cope with that? Like how when a tragedy happens, how does she move forward from that and understand that? Like she was just talking about, I was talking about how she felt like this was a karmic agreement between them. What does she feel like her message is to help others move forward through a similar situation, losing children?
Well, I'm going to intervene for just 1 minute and say to you, Karen didn't come to this overnight. Karen isn't poised and, centered and strong the way she is now.
Right.
Then. So I would believe, that there was a journey to that. But would you answer that question, Karen?
Absolutely. And yes, Lisa, there was a journey to it. It started with getting grief counseling, of course, and I saw a wonderful lady by the name of Ashley Davis Bush, who is an incredible grief counselor, and she was instrumental in helping me move forward. And also Melinda was wonderful, because Melinda helped me connect back with my kids in a way that I hadn't been able to do on my own. And gave me the comfort of knowing that even though the children aren't with me physically, I know that they're with me. And that just because I had the loss where physically I lost them, I don't feel it was all lost, because I move forward and I take them with me as I move forward. It's more of a transcendence where they come with me.
Right. And do you feel, I mean, like you said, sort of this is, I guess, a part of your journey, a part of your purpose, moving forward, and to be able to share this experience with others, with other people.
Absolutely.
On some level.
Absolutely. And the real beauty to me, and I try really hard to focus on the beautiful things that have happened since the tragedy rather than the tragedy itself. I try to keep my mind focused on that. And so many beautiful things have come out of the tragedy, and it's really put me in a position to help other people and use the story and use my karma to turn it around and do good things for other people and hopefully impact the lives of other people in a positive way.
Right. And I guess being able to understand kind of where other people might come from when they go through a tragedy, even if it's not that same exact type of tragedy, but
absolutely,
but having a sort of empathy towards it in a different way.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Lisa, if you would just email me your address, I am going to send you, for being the first caller, one of Karen's books called Angels 3. And so that you can see her journey for yourself. And there are pictures of her children, and she has other aspects to her story. And we'll make sure to get this book out to you, Lisa.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you both so much for talking with me.
You're so welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One of the things I think, Karen, is that did you find right after the tragedy that people were afraid to talk to you? Like they don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
So because they don't know what to say, they say things that they don't know what to say about. You know what I mean? Did you find that was part of the...
Absolutely. That is part of the journey. People are, a lot of people, not all people, but a lot of people are uncomfortable with talking about death. And especially in a situation where someone has lost a child, because it is such a painful thing to go through, and people are afraid to approach it for a number of reasons. But for one, they're afraid if they bring it up that they're going to upset you. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, at least in my case, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that when you lose a child, you want to talk about the child.
Of course, yes.
You want to hear their name mentioned. You want to keep their memory alive. Mm-hmm. And so...
Yeah, all too often people totally avoid that. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the first time that you came into my office, because the angels know that I always infuse a lot of humor in what I do, because the more humorful you are, the lighter you are, the more you can connect with spirit. And you came in with a friend and had a toy with you, and I came out to the lobby and said, okay, which one of you is coming in and which one of you is going to play with the toy, not recognizing who you were. Of course, I heard it on the news as well. We all did here in town, but not recognizing who you were at all. And I was a little flippant, and you laughed just like you laughed now. Mm-hmm. And that connection with the kids through hearing from the other side is one thing, but you just told me a really cool story that I want you to share here about the name of your book, which you had shared, that Landon, the author, the co-author, the one that told your story, had talked to you about Angels 3 for the title. But tell the story about what you told me before we got on air, because I think that's a really cool one.
Yeah, so the book is Angels 3, and it was written. I hired a professional writer, a local writer named Landon J. Napoleon, who he's just a fantastic writer. Anyway, when we were going through trying to decide what we were going to call the book, he came up with Angels 3, and I loved that. And I said, yeah, that's it. That's the title. And I said later to him, I said, Landon, did you know that I collect angels? And he said, what? And I said, yeah, I've been collecting them for years. I have shelves and shelves of angels. So it was the perfect book. And then not long after that, we were on vacation in the Caribbean, and a boat pulls up, like a tugboat pulls up, and on the boat it said Angels 3 with the numeral 3, and I said, that was
There-
it.
There's your confirmation.
Yeah.
And the kids give you other signs too. Can you share some of the signs that you get from the kids?
I get lots of signs from the kids, and well, my favorite was the toy we were talking about, and that was a barnyard toy that would make, the cow, the chicken, the pig. It would make all the different sounds. But after the kids passed away, it would only make one sound, and that was the horse whinny. And it would only do it when no one was touching it. So it was really interesting. And I remember one night I was laying in bed and it started going off at about 2:00 in the morning, and it kept going and going. And I started counting how many times, and I stopped counting at 100. And then I said, "Okay, kids, I know you're trying to talk to me." And then that was the toy we ended up bringing with us to the first meeting with Melinda, and that thing whinnied all the way in the car ride to her office. But the other signs are interesting because I can tell which child is giving me a sign by what the sign is. So, for example, Logan loves to do mischievous things, but he plays with lights. He'll dim lights or make them flicker. He does things like leave the water running. And I'll come and I go, I know I didn't leave the water running. And Luke, his fun little things that he does is he takes over my computer when I'm on it and starts,
which I asked him not to do tonight, so that we would be fine with her.
We did ask him to please don't interfere with it tonight.
Don't do it tonight, Luke. You don't have to prove anything to anybody.
You can find some other sign, but not that one.
Yeah.
And then Morgan does things like I'll be driving and I'll see Morgan. I'll see it in big letters somewhere, and that's usually what she does. She just shows me her name, and I just smile.
Very nice.
I just smile.
And when this first happened, I know that the mountain is significant to you. Can you share?
Well, I think back on that, and I used to think it was a fluke that I lived there, but now I don't think that. The mountain was I always thought it was very beautiful, as those of us that live in that area or have hiked that area feel about the mountain. And there's so much history there, and I always felt drawn to it, but I never really knew why. And the kids and I would ride in the car. I would take them to school. Every day we passed the mountain, and I would say to them, "What's that mountain, kids? What is it?" And they would all say in unison, "It's Superstition Mountain." And they all were very aware of the mountain. And since the time that they've left this earth, I look at it as it's such a beautiful place. I had a close friend who was, obviously devastated as I was that we lost the kids. And then the fact that it was right by the mountain that we love. And she has this big bay window out of her kitchen that faces the mountain. And she said, "But why there? Why there?" And I said, "You know what? Think about it. People die every day on the side of the road from a car accident with very little dignity at all. And look at where they went. It's such a beautiful place."
Are you the epitome of gratitude, graciousness, grace? I'm telling you, I'm always telling people to find something to be grateful for. That is the most beautiful statement, that you're grateful for them having a beautiful place to pass away, and that puts you in a state of what I call graciousness and grace. Like, you've been graceful in this situation in ways that most people can't even imagine. I wonder if you see yourself that way, or if you know that, or you, like, do you get it? Do you get that you're so amazing?
I don't really think of it that way, to be honest with you, but I do try to think of anything I can positive, to plug positive thoughts in my mind about what happened, because I think if I didn't, I would go crazy.
Yeah, well, this book is Angels 3 is just a wonderful book, and there's great pictures and so on. But it's not just about the kids. There are other things that you've struggled with in life. You've had other karmic challenges. You lost a sister when she was young, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you've had breast cancer, and your mother passed away when you were young. I mean, you've had other karmic challenges here that many people may not realize. This isn't just the only thing you've had to cope with.
Right.
So it's been, and it's all documented in this book, all her journey here. And part of what's in this book is what happened with the FAA after after what happened, and I guess that was also a struggle with you. Was there a struggle that you had to go through to see what happened, or what's that part of the story?
Yeah, the tragedy, we try not to focus on the tragedy. In fact, the tragedy is a very small part of the whole story, but the tragedy is there, and we do focus on it. And I think this accident was particularly painful for me for a couple of reasons. One, because of where it happened, but two, because I'm also a pilot. And flying was a very important, very special part of my life, and have been my entire life.
And you were one of the first female pilots that were. I mean, it's a man's world, right?
Yeah, I wasn't the first, but
one of the
pioneers.
Pioneers, yeah. I mean,
you want to call it that? Yeah.
I'm not aging you or anything, but
No,
it's a man's world, and now more and more there are female pilots. But
yes.
When you wanted to be a pilot and you're a female too, I mean, that was a big deal.
It was
back when you were a kid, yeah.
Yep, it was, and so I guess looking at it from that aspect, I mean, part of me thinks that it was maybe a cruel way for them to go because it was something I loved so much. But it connects, the way the story gets connected, it all starts to kind of make sense when I look at the big picture. And I did find out certain particular things about the accident after it occurred that were troublesome to me. And it was very important to me to find out exactly what had happened. And I was going to turn over every stone until I got to the bottom of it. And we do share that in the book, the journey of finding out what happened. And it was very interesting the way it unfolded.
Did you get some divine guidance in finding things out?
You know what? I think so. And some of it was just things that I found up there. So I've hiked up there about 13 times now, and I was never a hiker. But I want to go up there now because that's like me visiting their gravesite,
of course,
if you will.
Yeah.
And there was still quite a bit of things still there from the aircraft. And so when the times I've gone up there, my radar is always out for things I might find. And I have found some really interesting things up there. Really interesting things. So I'm selective about what I take out, but I have a bag of things that I found that I kept. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Do you ever find heart rocks?
I find heart rocks.
Because I'm being shown heart. I'm being shown heart rocks right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
I do find that. So yeah, so they find their way of sending me little signs, and they've even sent me. I mean, if I'm having a particularly bad day, and there was one day where I was having a bad day, and I looked down and something shiny caught the corner of my eye, and I looked, and it was a little angel.
Oh, nice.
So I just picked it up and went,
thanks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I needed that.
Yeah.
So I like going up there. It's a special place to me. It's a very spiritual place to me, and I feel like it's been that way for a long time before I ever came on the scene.
Interesting. It's a great perspective. If you want to ask Karen a question, you can call us at 602-875-0444, and I know she'll be happy to answer your questions. So, you shared with me again before we got started that the last time we talked, the kids said to me, horse, 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 and that you have 3 horses. And then subsequently you sent a video about some of the therapy that you do with horses. Can you tell us a little bit about the horses, the therapy, the charity, all of the things that you're doing?
Sure. Well, we started a charity about 3 years ago called 3 Wings of Life, and the vision that we had when we started it was a ranch with horses and a place of hope and healing for children. And of course, it takes time to get to that place. And really, I have to back up, because the way this story started was my dear close friend, Eva Morgan, when the kids were alive, she came to me and she said, Karen, I have a vision. I have this vision of a place of hope and healing for children. And it encompasses horses and having a ranch. And, I was a single mother, totally over my head, very busy, as all single parents are. And I basically said, good luck with that. I support you with my heart, but I don't have time and I don't have money. So after the kids passed away, I started thinking about that vision again. And I thought, there's no reason why we can't do that now. And so together we started 3 Wings of Life. And as it started, we worked with local children in our neighborhood, and we had them at the church once a week, after school type program where we, played basketball with them, or just things that we knew they wanted to do. We did gardening. We served them hot meals. And a lot of these kids were underprivileged kids that I knew that they went to school with my kids. So a lot of these kids I already knew. So over the course of the past few years, we've now turned that portion of our program over to the church and given that program to them. And now we have 3 horses.
Nice.
And we do a certain type of therapy, and I like to call it learning because it's actually a learning session with a mental health care professional. We work primarily with autistic children, but we work with children and families, and we do this learning session on the ground with the horses, and it's an incredible program. It's very powerful. The other thing we do is we have a miniature horse, Clancy, who's about this tall, as cute
like
as
a large dog,
like a big dog, cute as a button, and it's easy to transport, so it works well. I've trained him through Pet Partners, which used to be the Delta Society. It takes like the hospital dogs and stuff like that, and that was always special to me because Morgan spent so much time in hospitals, and she would get very depressed because she was in pain and it was hard for her to move, and she would be stubborn about getting out of bed and getting better. So when the therapy dogs would come, we would use the therapy dogs sort of as leverage to get her to eat or to get her to get out of bed and
makes sense.
Give her, the desire to get better. So that's kind of where Clancy ties in. I mostly take him to schools, but we can take him to hospitals in some cases, and assisted living facilities.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm looking at perhaps using the skills that I've learned with the horses, even perhaps to help veterans. And
that's so needed. That's great, because with PTSD and things like that, that's awesome.
That's my big thought. And there is a lot of PTSD, and there's a lot of hurting people in the world. So I thought if we can use the horses to do that, I feel like that honors my kids.
That's awesome. Again, part of the miracle of what you guys have agreed upon. How does somebody tap into looking that up? Like, do you have a website, or how can they find out more about that?
Sure, yeah. Our website is 3, that's numeral 3, wingsoflife.org.
Very nice. Very nice. So check that out. I'm sure that donations are always welcome too.
Yes, we do. We do survive on donations.
Yeah, I mean, so hey, everybody, if you're looking for a charity right now, that's after Karen is so kind to be giving her time and effort and energy tonight. Let's donate to that. That's a very worthy cause. Speaking of post-traumatic stress, how do you think that yours has been for you? And, because you don't present as someone with PTSD, how does that happen? Like, you still fly, you live by the mountain, you hike the mountain. Like, tell us how that has been able to be kept in some kind of a balance for you.
That's a good question too, because I feel that I especially right after the kids passed away, a tremendous amount of PTSD that I accumulated while the kids were here. It was very difficult to have two special needs children, and of course, like I said, I wouldn't have traded them for anything, but it was a very difficult life, and it was a very stressful life, and it went by so fast, Melinda, that literally I felt like after the accident, I felt like I was hit with 10 years of PTSD all at the same time. It was like all of a sudden, all those things that I never had the time to process started to hit me all at once.
Because you were in fight or flight the whole time, with one child in need, another in the hospital, this and that, or the other thing.
I always felt like I was running a 3-legged marathon. That just wouldn't,
Not to mention that you were divorced from their father, and there's trauma in divorce as well, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that was all sandwiched into that 10 years too.
Yeah, and 1 week before my divorce, I'd had a double mastectomy, and it was just like one thing after the next. So, I had a great deal of PTSD. And I think to some extent, I still have PTSD, although the way that I've tried to work through it is to just allow myself to feel it and experience the things that have happened. That's the way we work through these things. It's not something you can bury or run away from or pretend like it didn't happen. It all did happen. So,
you know what? I have to take a minute, you guys, and say to you what I'm hearing is emotional courage. And we talk about that in spirituality a lot. What exactly is emotional courage? And people ask me, well, what is emotional courage all the time? In simplistic form, emotional courage is the ability to be honest with yourself and with others. And that's what I hear from you tonight, is so much honesty, so much integrity, so much emotional courage, so much ability to lay your cards on the table and say, this is my karmic profile, and it sucked, but I'm still smiling, and I'm laughing, and I'm here, and I still have good times, and I know my kids are with me, and they give me signs, and it's not like when things like this first happen, a lot of people come to a medium frequently just to make sure they're connecting with the kids. And I want you to know that Karen still comes, but it's not like she's dependent or anything like that whatsoever. She's independent. She works with the kids on her own. She gets her own signs. She only checks in with me once or twice a year just to see what they have to say, because it's cool. It's cool because they give us little things that are fun and interesting from them, that they're watching her life and so on. But her ability to process and move forward is all on her own, with through her counseling and so on, and I think, really, Karen, I think through the kids, because they're so good at giving signs, I think that's part of it. I think that we had a story that one time one of your kids said something to us that neither one of us knew, and then can you tell that story?
Yes, that was an interesting experience. So, Melinda and I were doing a reading, and you actually gave me, there were 2 names that came up that I didn't connect with at all. I didn't know what they meant. So you boxed them, and we went on, and a day or so later, and of course I always save everything you get. I save everything. And I have a special drawer where I put it. And some of my kids' things are in that drawer too, by the way. But a few days later, I received a phone call from a woman who, it was getting close to holidays, and she was a single mom with 3 kids, and she needed some assistance with food and clothing and stuff. So I talked with her a while, and I was trying to decide what I could do to help her. And in the meantime, I, thanked her for calling, and I told her I would follow up with her, and I hung up the phone, and I was just sitting there for a minute thinking, what do I do? Do I, take the kids shopping? Do I go out and buy food and just take it to their house? But this was going through my mind. So for whatever reason, I got off the chair. I walked into the room where I keep your readings, and in that same drawer, I have some books that my kids had, school books. And I opened up this book that said Logan on the front of it, and it was a spelling book. And I opened it up, and it had 3-letter words like cat, dog, rat, very, very simple things. And then I just stuck my finger in it and opened it up, and it said help. And then there was a whole sentence about help. And it said, when people ask for your help, you help them. And I went, ooh. And I set it down, and I picked up the stack of the reading we just did. I don't know. I just opened it up, and I looked at the boxes that were next to each other, and it was the woman's name that had just called me. So to me, again, that's the spirit of the kids synchronizing and connecting and making things happen and being the true angels that they are from the other side. That's amazing. That's a wonderful story. It's amazing how much the kids can do and connect. It's amazing. Do you connect with your? I'm not sure we've ever done this, to be perfectly honest with you. Do you connect with your mother or your sister? Or is it always the kids? It's always the kids. I know that we did have some discussion about my sister, but as far as the signs and where I feel we're actually connecting, it's been the kids. My mother, I'm not sure what my mother is doing or why we're not connecting, but it's interesting. Someday you should come and bring me a picture of your mother and sister. We'll see if we can just focus on them, or if the kids will just get in our way and not let us do that at all. Yeah. Well, I think that's part of it too, because when you're telling me about the kids, you're describing them perfectly, like Logan dancing, and I could see him dancing, and Luke doing this. He would always do that to me. Always. That was his thing. Nice. And Morgan talking about how her hair is long now and her head doesn't hurt anymore and things like that. Well, if you don't mind, I have one question from a mother who lost her child that had a question for me that I'm going to see what we can do here. And the question is from Debbie, who says, please tell me what happened in your room that day, and I need specifics. You know what I mean, Cole. I know he loves me, but I need him to verify one more time by referring to a certain picture. Tell him I miss his hug so very much. Well, Debbie, I must tell you that there are times that I don't remember readings at all, so I don't know what happened in that room that day. But I did, kind of connect in just a little bit, and I want to tell you that I got the word allergy, something about an allergy, something about his ashes, something about ashes, allergy, and something about a picture where it feels like he's saying I'm number one. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, or if he's giving you other information, because sometimes when those specific questions come in, being a medium is challenging, and you try to give people that reassurance, and I don't know if that's the picture you're referring to, but that's what I see. So I don't know if that helps you, Debbie, but certainly I know that your son
loves you very much, as I know that Karen's children love her very much, and I know your son will probably be giving you signs. I don't know when your son passed, but the signs are hard to see at first, aren't they, Karen? Because you're in so much grief that you can't always see the signs. Or did you get signs right away?
I did get signs right away, and I was open to it, and maybe there were, for all I know, signs that I didn't even recognize. And that's very possible because, when you are in the first stages of grief, it puts your head in a very strange place for a long time. So,
and honestly, the less you are a victim to your loss, the more likely you are to get signs. And it's really all about energy on this planet in third dimension. The more you can find some place to find some light-hearted humor, or something that feels light, the as hard as that is to say and to hear, the more that you can be light and laugh. Like that day that I came out to you, when I said that to you, you laughed.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of lighthearted energy is what creates that connection and that ability to make that connection. Do we have a call, Billy? Marianne? Okay, transfer it over. You are just a gift to us tonight. You have no idea what a gift you have been. You're so beautiful and articulate. And hi, Marianne.
Hi there.
How are you, sweetheart?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you Marianne from the Franciscan Renewal Center?
I am.
Hi, sweetie. How are you? How are you? It's nice.
I'm doing really good.
Now, isn't this woman amazing? But you're an amazing woman, too, because what you've done with your loss has also been extremely special. And do you mind if I share for just a minute so that I can catch Karen up?
Sure, go ahead.
So Marianne's son had been struggling with addiction issues, and he just couldn't seem to get himself on track. So he chose to leave the planet. And Marianne also has a special needs child as well, and she's very active in the church where we all go. And she is now very active in Suicide Survivor. And I've been blessed by her as she has asked me to help her in a seminar with suicide survivors. So did I put that in a nutshell, kid?
Oh, you said it beautifully as always, Melinda.
So what is your question, Marianne, for our beautiful Karen tonight?
First of all, thank you so much, Karen, because your story has really touched me. And I've spent years and years in the aerospace industry, and so I get all of that. And I also have a special needs child. He's Down syndrome. And while my son only died 14 months ago, I keep waiting and waiting and waiting for signs and messages from him, and I just can't seem to connect with him. Yet my special needs son, Joey, is always connecting with him. And so my question is, how long did it take you, or what I feel like I'm doing something wrong. So what advice can you give me to just sort of open my heart and, try to connect with my son directly? That's kind of my question. It's long story short, but
I would say the first thing would be to really, truly be open to it. And what I mean by that is allowing yourself to be very aware and very perceptive about what's going on with you from moment to moment. Even in the, even if you're doing the dishes, or you're doing, something that seems very mundane, or something that's important. But the point is being open-minded and receptive to the possibility that he might be trying to give you a sign. And also, it might not be, it might not be a volcano going off. that it's real obvious, but it might be something really subtle.
You know, Marianne, the thing of it is with Joey, because Downs are God's chosen children, right? He has no agenda. He innocently allows those signs to go through because he doesn't have an expectation. And part of getting signs is to take the expectation or any kind of idea about looking for them out and just be open without looking. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you that I'm being shown a monkey, and I know that's a ridiculous thing to say to you, but is there something with a sock monkey or something with a monkey around you?
No, it's not ridiculous, Melinda, because I connected with two friends from grade school, and we actually had a monkey experience on our last day of school, and we were talking about a monkey today.
Okay, so that's your son telling me that he was with you today and listened to your conversation and gave me the monkey to let you know that he was there with you today with your friends. So you see, darling, he's right there with you, okay? Because we're getting that, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're so
ladies.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You have a wonderful evening. Thank you for calling.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, and by the way,
so
give us your address and we'll send you one of Karen's books, okay?
Beautiful. That would be greatly. All right. Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night. And the third book, I would like this young lady, Deb, to give us her address, and so we can send the book to her. Karen was generous enough to give us 3 books tonight so that we could send them out. So how are we doing on time, Billy? We're, 4 minutes, right? 3 minutes, 2 minutes? What are we?
Well, we're still 90 minutes tonight. Tonight's the last 90-minute broadcast.
I'm sorry?
Tonight's
I know. How much time do I have left, William?
34 minutes.
Thank you. It's like, okay, my watch stopped. Tell me what I'm doing on time so I'm not screwing up here. We're casual around here.
I like it.
Isn't that interesting that her son would show me the monkey?
Yes.
Like, of all the abstract things. But here's the moral of that story. And the moral of that story is you don't underestimate what they see from the other side. Don't underestimate that they may be with you having a conversation, having fun. And I heard people, laughing in her background. Maybe her friends are there, right? And so, don't underestimate that stuff. And that's exactly what you were saying, like what the signs are in regards to, how to be open, but how abstract some of that can be.
Sure.
Like,
oh yeah.
Like even with some of the things that the kids give you that you don't realize are signs until later.
Yeah.
Until later. Who do we have, Billy?
Yeah.
Jane.
Okay, transfer Jane. You're gonna get a kick out of Jane.
Good.
You're gonna get a kick out of Jane. Hi, Jane.
How are you this evening?
I'm good. I just told Karen that she was going to get a kick out of you, Jane, so don't let me down now. Let her rip, Jane. Let her rip.
Well, you freaked me out there. What time is it? How many minutes do I have? Do I only have 3 minutes? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought it was 8:30, but let me hurry up and call.
I'm a dumb blonde. What can I say? I looked at my watch wrong, and I'm trying to ask him a question. Of course, he answers it like, will you just give me what I'm doing, Bill? Okay. What's your question, Jane?
Well, my question, it wasn't a question. I just wanted to hurry up and get in before you went off there. I just wanted to say thank you so much for Karen.
Well, okay, but do you have any questions for Karen? You're sitting here listening to this lovely woman talk about being empowered here through the worst kind of situation.
I just moved here in 2011, and just a couple months after I moved here, we heard the story. And, well, of course, it was all over the news, but the superstitions are, like, viewed from my house. And I was looking outside that night, and it was just, must have been on the other side of the mountain, but I was like, oh, my goodness. And it's amazing to hear and to see and just be part of this whole experience. And I just want to say thank you so much to Karen for sharing, being here and doing this for everybody, and it's a gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for calling. Don't worry, Jane. We've got more time.
Thanks for telling me that.
Have a good night, sweetheart. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye, honey. Are you doing lots of public speaking with this? And do you have any events coming up? And
Yes.
You've been on some TV shows. You were featured in Oprah. You did things with Oprah Network, or what'd you do with Oprah?
Well, Oprah Winfrey Network caught wind of my story. This was a few years back. I had put some things on Facebook, and they went viral, and I hadn't anticipated on that. And apparently, when that happened, the Oprah Winfrey Network got a hold of the story and contacted me about doing a story for their Super Soul Sunday series. So they came out here with their cameras and their crew, and they spent about 10 days filming, and they actually hiked all the way to the top of that mountain
that was awesome,
on a 116-degree day.
Wow.
With their cameras and everything, and it was an amazing experience. And you can watch clips from that, by the way. If you go to YouTube and type in, Oprah Winfrey Network, and it's under Super Soul Sunday in Deep Shift was the name of the series.
In Deep Shift. Well, that's interesting, because nobody could be in a deeper shift than you.
In Deep Shift.
And that's interesting because, because you have to shift into spirituality, don't you, Karen?
I think if I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to survive being here.
Yeah. Does religion play in, or just spirituality? Tell me about how religion, because I'm a religious person, even though in my religion I'm a big no-no, but the church hasn't fallen down around my ears yet. I'm a big no-no in many ways. I'm a serial monogamer for one thing, and then a medium, and so far God has left the church above me, but I'm still very, I love my religion. What my soul chose coming into this world was Roman Catholic, and I'm not a Roman Catholic anymore. I'm a Franciscan Catholic, and I love it. And so tell me about your religion and how that played in your faith and all of that.
Well, I was raised in the Lutheran Church as a child, and
that's more Catholic than the Catholics
and,
now.
Yeah, right. And we talk about this in the book a little bit too. How my father, who I was raised by my dad, and how he influenced my religion. He was teaching Sunday school, and I know he did his best trying to, teach me the right things when I was younger. And then at some point he got into Scientology, and we went through a few rounds with that, and I was very confused at that point, because Scientology is a little different than
the Lutherans.
Than Lutheran religion, right? And that progressed, and I do believe in God, and I do belong to a church. I do enjoy seeing different churches, and my attitudes about God and spirituality overlap a little bit, and perhaps I may not have a traditional viewpoint about that, but I do believe in God, and I do believe that the children are with God, and I think that my faith got me through a lot as well.
Yeah, and I think you have to have some basic faith in order to have some basic spirituality, although I think the most important religion is the golden rule. But, I think that religion is just a practice, and spirituality is a state of being. So do you meditate?
I would like to. I would like to learn how to. I have a tough time with it because I'm kind of a type A sort of fidgety personality, and it's really hard for me to just chill and go to my happy place. It's really hard for me to do. So I have tried it before, and I know I need to do more of it, and I would like to learn how to do more of it.
Yeah, meditation is misunderstood though. You know, you don't have to meditate for a half an hour or even 20 minutes or, just, 5, 6, 7 minutes. And really it's just a matter of breathing in deeply and closing your eyes and, trying to quiet your mind a little bit. For the people that are asking, how do I, connect to my child? Meditation is a way that you can connect. The truth is though, it's much easier, for example, for me to connect with Karen's 3 children than it is for me to connect with my own mother, because my ego would get involved in that, and I would maybe make things up in my head that she might say because I knew her really well. So, that's another reason why sometimes people who've had a loss, you just kind of check in once in a while with a meeting just to kind of touch base so that you hear, because sometimes you can kind of be talking to them in the car or whatever and say, was that real, or was that them, or was that, and that's why the signs and signals are so important. So
Debbie.
Okay, very good. We'll talk to Debbie. Hi, Deb.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? Debbie lives in New York. Okay. And are you watching Karen tonight, darling?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you for having her, and Karen, I want to thank you for your story. It is beyond beautiful and touching in so many ways, and you are like the strongest woman ever.
Thank you.
She is that, Deb. Do you want to share with Karen about your story a little bit, Deb?
Yeah, you can.
Why don't you do it, darling? Go ahead. Take a deep breath. You can do it.
Sean's been gone 10 years, and he was my only son. And the day, as a matter of fact, he had just moved out that day, and I decided, I gave him roots, and now it's time to give him wings, and he had moved out that day, and the next day I found out that he had passed. And it was a shock, and naturally, my world fell apart. It took me so much longer to get through it. I look at the timeline, and you are amazing. You are absolutely amazing.
Well, sweetheart, there's no special formula here on time, and everybody has to do it in their own time. And I have to tell you the funny story, Karen, is that what I remember the last time that Sean came in and talked to me, which was when? Last week, the week before? When was that, Deb?
Yeah, the week before, yep.
Anyway, when he showed me the darn snake. He showed me a snake, and she had a snake, so that was his.
Oh my God!
Yeah. I'm like, why am I seeing a snake? She's like,
He still likes to joke around and have fun with people, so I'm glad he kept his personality.
Yes. So, well, thank you for calling in tonight and sharing your story as well. And again, there's, for everyone that's listening, there's no special formula there. Everybody goes at their own pace, and that's just the way it rolls with it's as individual. Grief is as individual as your fingerprint. There's no formula, really. I mean, you went to a grief specialist, and she helped you on your journey, and you did some medium work, and that helped you connect with the kids. But it was your journey, right, Karen? So,
yep, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Every one of our journeys is unique, and I think part of the healing process, and I do believe it's a process, is telling your story. I think that's very important. So.
Yeah, you have to share.
The reason I decided to do it was to honor my son.
Right.
Because like you were talking about, people don't know how to act around you. They don't know what to say to you. And some people just shy away, and you lose so many people.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it leaves room for other people to come in that are meant to be there. And it's quite the journey. But I'm so grateful that you're on the show tonight.
Thank you for calling, sweetheart. We're always glad that you're staying up late in New York to listen to us.
Always.
Have a good night, sweetheart.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's interesting when you hear other people call and say, I've had this loss and I've had that loss, and and so on, and talk about the inspiration that you are. I guess you never expected to be in this position in life, so
No, I didn't.
it's hard,
No,
hard
no.
stuff. Hard
No,
stuff.
never saw myself doing speaking engagements or radio or TV or anything like that. But I do find it very very cathartic to.
So what everybody doesn't know is that Karen's life partner is here supporting her tonight, sitting in the wings. So what does it feel like to find love again? Like this was he was not part of your life when this happened, or was he? He was not part of your life when this happened. So
No.
he comes into your life, and you're maybe a little bit more fragile than you would have been, and so on. So did finding love again help you with your process? And
He's helped me tremendously. In fact, when we met, I had just gone back to work. I'd been off for 6 months, and I could have taken a year off because my wonderful peers at Delta Airlines donated their vacations and everything to me, so I could have a year off without pay.
Wow, that is Delta. Everybody Delta, yay.
And Delta, an unprecedented act of kindness, flew 150 of my coworkers out here from Los Angeles to attend the services for my kids.
Oh, I just got shivers about that. Thank you, God, that a big company like that has some heart.
It was incredible, and they were all in their uniform, lined up in the church, and it was magnificent, wonderful gesture of kindness. But at any rate, back to going back to work after 6 months, and I was flying a Tokyo trip for the first time, and I was lying in my bed, tired off an international trip, thinking I can't lay in this bed all day. I have to get up and I have to go downstairs. So I went down into the lounge. They have cocktails and food, and I just sat down next to this man, and he was talking to a group, and there were people there I knew that I was chit-chatting with, and all of a sudden we started talking, and it was just, so where do you live? And I said Phoenix, and I said, where do you live? And he said Phoenix. It was odd because we were on completely different trips, completely different bases. And so then he said, well, where in Phoenix do you live? And I said, Gold Canyon. And as soon as I said that, I saw all the blood drain from his face. He just turned white. And he said, are you who I think you are? And I said, yeah. And he said the smart thing, which was, I don't know what to say to you.
Ah, okay.
And I said, don't say anything at all. Just give me a hug.
Ah, so interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess since it was your first trip back, there was some little divine guidance there too. It was a little serendipitous there too, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
it was.
There's no such thing as a coincidence on this planet. And
It
so
was.
here you are, first trip out, far away. It's not like you flew from here to Colorado. I mean,
Right.
you're all the way in Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
and this connection happens for
Right.
you.
And
So
he's been tremendously supportive, very much of a rock in my life. Helps me get helped me find my way back to the horses.
good. So does he see the signs too? Is he a spiritual person, or are you introducing him to spirituality? I mean, most pilots are a little left-brained. They're a little bit engineering in their thought process,
This is true.
That was a big whole thing for him too. I mean,
Mhm.
to move forward with you, and now he's got all these spiritual experiences as well, and watching you blossom and grow and move into this empowered person to help others must be, a journey for him as well. So was he spiritual to begin with, or is this all new for him?
I think it's relatively new for him, but one thing about him that I do find particularly funny is that he completely reminds me of a grown-up Logan. I mean, it really does. He says things that I just go,
He sells lemonade.
Really?
he goes out of the house and you tell him to stay in.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, he just some of the things he says and his actions, and it so reminds me of my son.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think of another story that Logan said to my friend Eva one day when he was really proficient at using the computer, and he loved movies, so he would research all the movies around town and then present them to me and say, "Can we please go to one of these movies?" And how do you say no to a kid like that? It was like so cute and it's just so endearing. And he was with my friend Eva one day, and it was a beautiful day outside, so she wanted to enjoy the sunshine, maybe in the pool, and he wanted to go to the movies. And she gave him this whole list of why she couldn't do the movies. And no, we've got this to do, we've got that to do, it's a nice day, blah blah blah. And then when she was done, he said, "So now what's the problem?" So I love that. I always think about that. Yeah, he does remind me of a grown-up Logan for sure.
Now, Eva's still in your life?
Yes.
And does she get signs from them as well? It sounds like she was very close to them.
Yes. That's a really good question. She has when we've been together, and I'm not sure about the signs when we've been apart.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have recently a really interesting experience at our house. Gordon's mom's 95th birthday. She had it over January.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday, Mom. Beautiful lady. And so we had several of his family members over. And one of those members is a 5-year-old whose mother, Gordon's brother, adopted. So it's like his adopted grandchild. And when they were at the house, she was playing with something, and her grandmother said, "So who are you playing with?" And she said, "Karen's kids."
Wow.
And I thought, oh, that's amazing.
Obviously, she knew nothing. She wasn't even born when the kids went to heaven, right?
She knew nothing. Yeah, she's only met me a couple of times.
Isn't that interesting? Well, though, just like your kids, those kids that are still close to the other side of the veil, that have that ability to see energy and to honor it and to verbalize it and to do, spiritual connecting like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you get to spend time with kids, it fills you. It gives you joy. I think people have to understand that you're still involved in life. Other kids still make you happy. You don't mourn because you see another child that's playing at your house. You enjoy it. I remember going over to a family's house with my grandchild, and my grandchild found some toy that was their son's. Their son had passed away, and the father said, "Oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. That's the first time that toy's been played with," and went out and got all the other toys for my and the joy of watching my grandson play with his son's toys just was written all over him. And so, again, there's so much stigma, Karen. There's so much that people don't understand. There's so much of it that people go a little, silly about, and are reluctant to talk to you about your kids or how you are enjoying your life right now and that kind of thing. And I'm sure it was a pure joy to watch that child play with your kids.
Right. Yeah, one of my toughest questions, I think, and I've gotten very used to talking about my children, so I don't have any problem with it. But the difficult part at times is, I work on airplanes, so people want to make small talk with you, and they say, "So do you have kids?" And so I say, "Yes, I do."
Of course.
And if they ask more questions, and I tell them as gently as I can that my kids are in heaven, and then that's always a little awkward, mostly on their end, because they were just trying to make small talk. They didn't want to hear about that. But it's an opportunity for me to maybe show them that beautiful things do come from tragedies. And yes, it was a terrible tragedy, but now I'm moving forward, and now I'm doing hopefully positive, good things for the world. And I'm hoping that I make an effect and bring joy and light.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I think there's no, again, no accidents as far as connections with people. And I think those people that are making the small talk, they're the ones that are supposed to hear about it. They're supposed to hear all of that stuff. They're supposed to see your beauty and your grace in that story, because you don't know that that person might also have a friend or somebody in their life that had such a loss, and they might go home and say, yeah, I met this person on the plane, you know, and the way that she handled telling me was really graceful, and, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know,
Exactly.
but you know, people have heard about this. Like, this is a countrywide story. Like, people have heard about this.
Yeah.
You know, besides the fact that Gordon recognized you, do you have other people that recognize you when you say that story and then kind of, like, don't know what else to say, or are they graceful back to you, or what happens with that?
Usually, yeah. Sometimes people will recognize me and they're not sure why, and sometimes they just do, and they come up to me and hug me and say, I know who you are. And it can be in the airport, you know, and I don't know who they are, but it's special to me that people remember them. That's very special to me.
Well, again, you know, spiritually speaking, they had a job to do, and they did a good job.
Yeah.
They had their job to do, and apparently they've done a good job. So what was the hardest thing for you to talk about or to work through when you were doing this book? What was the hardest chapter? You know, I look at the, you know, I love looking at the pictures in here. I think I put, you know, well, where's the kids? Here, I put these, she's got pictures of the kids here that are just awesome. There's Morgan right there. And so what was the hardest part? There's her family there, and if you can see, what was the hardest part, chapter-wise, for you to tell? What was the hardest part of the story to tell?
I think the hardest part was really digging into the details of the accident, because a lot of the details that were discovered that were put in the book were details I didn't know. And for example, there's a part in there that talks about the rescuers that came by helicopter, the first responders. It was a very, very dramatic scene, and when I'm reading it, I can see the whole thing. I mean, I'm watching it. And, I mean, it was a huge explosion, a lot of fire, and this incredibly brave man who was, yes, he was doing his job, but he was really trying hard. He jumped out of the helicopter, and he's, you know, yelling really loud, trying to find any survivors, and even to almost his own peril. And he slips and he falls, and he gets injured, but he does catch you know, he gets the end numbers of the airplane, and then realizes that there's no way that anyone could have possibly survived that. And he goes back out, and when I read things like that, I'm so impressed with that man, and I can't even tell you his name. His name's in the book, but I mean, I've never met him. I don't know who he was, but I know that there were a lot of people like that were really did a lot to try to save them. And it's left a big impression on me. And of course, I'm very, very grateful for all the work that they do and what they've tried to accomplish that night. But that would be the hardest thing, I think. But on another level, I felt that I needed to know it.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I needed to know it. And I know that they didn't suffer.
That's what actually was coming to me, and I wanted to say to you is I'm being told that there was an instantaneous crossover to the other side.
Right.
You know, that there was no suffering involved, and you know.
I even have a neighbor who was driving home that night. She lives 2 doors down from me, and she said she saw a huge angel by the explosion, just with her arms out, like gathering.
What a gift that was for her to see that. Huh?
Incredible. Yeah.
everybody, please get your copy of Angels 3, the Karen Perry story, and please get on the website for the horses and the healing, and it would be really great if you would donate just a little bit of money.
That would be lovely. Yes, that would be great.
Because, we want to help a lot of kids when we can, and you were just going to say something about the book.
It's available on Amazon and iBook and pre-order through Barnes and Noble, and you can donate through my Facebook page.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And you shared with me earlier that you were disappointed at not meeting James Van Praagh. And so I want to invite you to sit right up front, and tickets are on me for you to sit at my event with James Van Praagh coming up on November 17th and 18th at the Mauna Lucia. And so that you can meet James Van Praagh and spend a little time with him. I'll make sure that happens. Okay.
Wonderful.
And I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Okay.
And James and I really honor that part of each other where we don't tell each other. Like, he sends some people to me, and he doesn't tell me anything about them, so the meeting is pure. I won't tell him a thing about you.
Okay.
And we'll see what the kids do. And I'm gonna have a deal with the kids that they're gonna come in and say something. What's up, Bill?
A little clarification on the donations. Let me go ahead and just transfer the call to you.
Okay. We've got to get some donations for these kids that. Hi, this is Melinda.
Oh.
Who am I talking to?
Hi. Oh, you're going to have to guess on that one.
Oh my God, Jane. You finally got your question together. Okay.
So, you're talking about horses and donate, and then I get nothing except for where to buy the book, which I already bought.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Donations are.
Yeah. So on our website, we were making some changes, and they may not have gotten it all in there. So the best way to donate would be through my Facebook page.
I don't have Facebook.
You don't? Okay. So another option would be
Send me a check and I'll make sure she gets it.
Yeah. All right. I'll give Melinda my mailing address.
Yes, and make it out to what, Karen?
Just make it out to 3 Wings of Life.
3 Wings of Life. And if you don't want to use a check, you want to use a credit card, just give that to Izzy and I'll give her the check, and don't worry, we'll make sure it gets there, okay?
Okay, and then what do you do with the horses and the kids?
Oh, she missed that part.
Okay, yeah, we do a special therapy called Equine Assisted Growth and Learning. And we do it, it's all on the ground. It's with a mental health care professional and myself. And we can do it with 1 or multiple horses and 1 or multiple family members. So that's one aspect. The other is I have a miniature horse that I take around to schools and assisted living and hospital facilities, and mostly for autistic kids, but we do it for typical children as well.
Okay, and so you already have the horses?
Yes. Yeah, we have 3 horses. We have 2 quarter horses and a miniature horse.
Why, do you have a horse that you can donate to have them have an extra horse?
I have actually 2.
Okay, great.
They've been at rescue for years. The owner left them.
Okay.
And they've been being cared for through a dog rescue. So it's not really a horse rescue that's taking care of them. So there's been nobody riding them. They've been there maybe 4 or longer years. They're older. One is older. One is maybe 12. The other one is 7, or they could be older than that. I'm not even sure. But they're still there, and the person who's taking care of them is looking to have them go to a horse rescue, as opposed to somebody to break them and try to ride them after this time.
Well, I don't know if Karen can help you with that, but I will tell you, if it's all right with you, Jane, I will give Karen your information, and then she can contact you, and then you and she can go directly about how you can help or what can be done. How's that sound?
That sounds fabulous. Thank you.
All right.
I'd love to do that.
I will make sure Karen gets your information, Jane, and you have a wonderful night tonight.
Thanks, you too, and you too, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye, sweetheart.
All righty. Bye-bye.
So, gosh, this has been tremendous. There are things that we haven't touched on that you've been through, but thank you for sharing with us. Especially, my favorite part is to hear about the kids and who they are and how they've made that spiritual connection, how they continue to be part of your life, and also if anybody else is listening that wants you to do some speaking or talk on their shows, because I know we have some other people watching. They can get to you through your Facebook, which is just Karen Perry, right? And so they can private message you on the Facebook if they want to get a hold of you for anything that they might, ask you to share with them. So if anybody out there wants to connect directly with Karen, just get on her Facebook, and I know she'll be happy to talk with you. And I want to thank everybody for being a part of our show tonight, and our callers, and even Gordon, who's sitting over here smiling because I drug him into it without him knowing that was going to be happening to him. So he was a good sport about it too. He had a smile on his face, even if he is a left brain pilot, but that's okay. And the kids who are standing here for sure and enjoying themselves, and for everything that you shared with us tonight. Do you have any parting words for everybody that's listening to us, Karen?
I just want people to feel hopeful that, I mean, especially those of you who have lost children, just feel hopeful that you can get through it, and you will get through it, and that your kids are with you, even though they're not with you physically. Just remember that they are with you.
Thank you. Empower yourself and find emotional courage, like our special guest tonight, Karen Perry. Thank you very much for tonight, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Next week we're off, so we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good one.
Thank you.